Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Isle of Man in the UK. This is John and Mike's MMA Corner.
Okay, Dustin, now is it Kramer? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, it's Kramer.
Okay, you're taking on Issac Badger. Now, Dustin, you're fighting on the Shamrock FC card. It's coming up very shortly. You know what? The first thing I want to ask you, before we talk about the fight coming up, you turned into the pro ranks, 2015. You actually finally had your first loss in the pro ranks, okay? Now, in the amateur ranks, you had already had a loss. Did the loss, I had to find out, did the loss in the amateur ranks help you for when you lost your first pro fight? Did that help you mentally? Because it's always a big thing when someone potentially loses their fight as a pro fighter. So how have you handled this situation since then?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. No, I think that it helped me for sure. Having lost before, I lost my first couple fights actually as an amateur fighter, and then went on a run where I won like 9 of my last 10 fights, but. So I think when I went on that run and kind of in the middle of it, I lost the title fight, and it was really kind of bummed me out, and it was hard to recover from. But I think that having gone through those experiences before, having already lost, a big fight, I was kind of riding high again. I hadn't lost in a few years, and was 2-0 as a pro. Back in last May was my last fight, and then ended up, dropping a fight that. I think it's really more, all credit to my opponent, but it's a fight I really feel like I should have won, and, kind of poor strategy. And like I said, was undefeated at the time as a pro, really wanted to keep that momentum going, and then, just kind of, it dropped it, like I said, just because, I feel like just kind of poor strategy. But having, already, dealt with that before in the amateur ranks, I definitely feel like it, helped me kind of, not blow it out of proportion and just, pick up on the mistakes that, I had there, the mental game, I feel like, and iron that out, and I feel like I'm stronger going forward because of it.
Don't worry, when I lost my first pro bout, it's hard to admit that a man popped your cherry, but do you know what? It happens. So
yeah, definitely. That's part of it, I guess. Part of winning, right?
Yeah. Do you know what? It happens, and the thing is, that's the thing. We got to remember. It's a fight game. It's a sport, and do you know what? As soon as that fight's over, that's the thing. It's over. It's in the past. The future. You know what? Guys have went on to win 10, 20 fights in a row. It can happen. Do you know what I mean? The thing is, you got to accept. You got to learn from it, and it's good that the way you talk about it. You're able to articulate in a very sensible way about how the fight went and how you mentally handled it. So it seems that obviously, because some guys when they come up the next fight, they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go in there, I'm gonna tear him," and you're like, "No, you need to have the right state of mind. You need to be still calm, cool. You need to be, you need to have your strategy if you have one. You need to fight your fight. You need to keep your mentality in the right place." You can't go in there thinking I've got to make more of an effort because I lost the last one. You can't do that. You just got to go in there and do what you were doing beforehand. And I'm sure that's what you've been looking at.
I felt like just kind of try to analyze the situation and make just a few adjustments and get back at it. I mean, just like you said, not everybody can win them all. Jose Aldo won, didn't lose a fight in 10 years, and then all of a sudden just gets gets caught in 13 seconds, and then. That's that. It's a fight game, right? It's either one guy or the other. Somebody's going to lose. So
well, that's the thing. That's what I meant. He lost a fight 10 years ago, went on a 10-year streak, and then he's the final loss. So it's not like it's impossible for someone to go out there and have a great run afterwards. And the thing is, you're going back onto the Shamrock card against Issac, and again they'll match you up well, and they have. They've put you up against Issac, Shamrock FC. There's a handful of promotions that I know that we deal with, especially on the podcast, that don't do fuckery, is the best way to put it. They won't get there and go, right, okay, we're going to match you up with a guy who's he's got 40 wins under his belt, and it's a good matchup for you. They'll match up where they think, they'll match up your strengths and their strengths, and end up, because they know what they want really is a great fight. They want two guys they're going to put on a great show. And that's what I think they're going to find with this fight. You know, you're going to go out there, Isaac's going to be game, and the pair are going to put on a good show, hopefully. Do you, or does your coach, look at your opponent, or do you just like to have your style, and just when you go in there, you kind of just go, let's see what he brings?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of both in that. You know, obviously, you want to know who you're fighting and you know, scout them a little bit, see what they like to do, some of the kind of tendencies, any habits they have. But at the same time, you know, I'm going to be the same fighter regardless. You know, I'm going to want to go in and, you know, it's not so much what, you know, you can't be too worried about whether, you know, are they going to do this or are they going to do that. It's more what, you know, I need to go in and enforce my game plan and do what I want to do. You know what I mean? But you know, obviously, you know, styles make fights. So I mean, stylistically, you know, I need to know, kind of try to have some sort of idea what he's going to come in and be trying to do as well. You know, be prepared for that, and you know how I'm going to counter some of those things that, you know, maybe I see that he's doing repeatedly. So, you know, so I think that, yeah, definitely game planning is a big part of it. You know, I've always felt like, you know, I feel like I'm, you know, a smarter fighter, you know, so definitely like to scout out my opponent as much as I can.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously each fighter is different and each coach approaches each fight differently, I find. And do you think, though, for yourself, the fact that you've done a little accumulation of different martial arts, and you've competed in separate you've done like grappling competitions, etc. Do you feel that, you know, taking every one of these arts and going into them has helped you develop yourself as a fighter? Do you feel it's an approach that maybe more people should be looking to do? Maybe just, you know, for example, like doing a grappling comp, doing a wrestling comp, doing a boxing or kickboxing bout. Maybe just delve into them and just to get just to dedicate themselves to a martial art for a little period of time.
No, I definitely think that it's helped me for sure. You know, I mean, I guess you know, just I kind of started off boxing, so I mean, I didn't necessarily plan at that time that I was going to jump into MMA eventually, but you know, I guess that is kind of the way that things played out. You know, I kind of moved into MMA, and at that time, it's, you know, I started seeing, you know, all these different aspects of the sport, and you know, just, you know, I felt like, you know, so for a while when I was just really focused on wrestling and really focused on the grappling, the jiu-jitsu, but I think actually going and competing in those different arts really helps, you know, solidify a lot of that knowledge and makes you a lot more confident, you know, in those parts of your game. You know, I went and did a couple grappling tournaments and did really well in them, and you know, it's like, okay, well, now this is just straight, you know, jiu-jitsu, right? And you know, I'm tapping these guys out. You know, I've built. You know, and then if you're in that situation, you're like, oh, I'm on my back in an MMA fight, and then it makes you feel a little bit more confident, maybe that, you know, you can pull off a submission if you need to. You know, pull something out that, you know, to change the way things are going in a fight. You know, I had the same kind of experience. You know, I competed in a couple of kickboxing matches, and you know, I had a nice second round stoppage there, and it's just, you know, really, you know, it's like, okay, well, you know, at that point in my career as an amateur at the time, you know, I'd started having a lot of success in the wrestling and the grappling, and you know, really kind of started, you know, really going that route in a lot of my fights, you know, taking guys to the ground and beating them up, ground and pound kind of thing. And then, you know, ended up, you know, started focusing more on kickboxing, took a couple kickboxing matches, and then, you know, and then you start seeing in my fights after that, you know, this guy's standing on his feet, banging, you know, doing that. So, I mean, it's just, I think, yeah, definitely, I mean, you know, focusing, you know, individually on the different disciplines themselves, I think definitely helps you evolve as a martial artist, an overall martial artist, and then you can then take those pieces again, and then the way you can, you know, work them back together, you know, it's really kind of beautiful when you can go and mix everything together.
That's what I was thinking as well. The way you were describing it there, it's kind of crazy that in a short period of time of MMA, it's almost, especially recently with the influx of, you know, the increased amount of people taken into the sport, that it's almost when the sport came about, everyone just went, right, I'm going to drop everything, just do MMA. But then it's almost like it went full circle in the fact that people are going, oh, I'm just going to go off and do pure kickboxing or Muay Thai. I'm going to do just grappling. I'm just going to do this, and it's almost like people are going back to the origins of each sport. It's kind of like people went, oh, actually we actually need to go back rather than leave it. We need to go back to that. I think it's vital that people do, because there's a lot in going into the pure sport. There's a lot of aspects on it that people might not have noticed when they're in MMA, because in MMA,
like a lot of fine-tuned details, and like different things, that might get glossed over when you're just like, oh, let's go do mixed martial arts, and maybe you never had that kind of background, and so you're trying to teach it some little fine technique, right? But it's like they're just getting it, you're just hitting them with too much information at once. You have to kind of like dissect the pieces together, dissect the pieces apart. It's like maybe you're teaching some like specific submission, you just kind of understand like those, that side of things. I guess that maybe you would get more, somebody instruct you more clearly, I guess, than just like a, specific like jiu-jitsu class or something. I think it's definitely good to separate the styles out.
Yeah,
but at the same time, when you got an MMA fight coming up, I feel like the best way to train to fight is to fight, so you can definitely have those times when it's just, okay, let's go strap on, some MMA gloves and some shin guards, and let's just go at it,
I agree with you on that one. And it sounds like you've, obviously, I don't know if you've been influenced by anyone with what you're doing there. I don't know if people have spoke to you about it, or it's just something you've done yourself. It sounds like, it almost sounds like you've got an old head on young shoulders, is the best way to use that phrase with yourself. And the way it's at, do you have a goal then? 2016, kicks off with Shamrock FC. Do you do like a? I don't know. Some fighters might do. Some people might do it. Do you have a plan for the year? Do you just go fight by fight, see how it goes before you pan anything out? Do you have like a little strategy like that, or do you just literally, like you say, just go with the flow?
Yeah, I guess kind of an overall kind of plan. Kind of what I'm trying to do. I feel like, at this point, I'm 32 years old, and I'm not planning on fighting forever. So, kind of wrapping this part of my life up, I feel like. So, maybe a few more years of fighting. So at this point, it's like, okay, I turned pro. I was really had a lot of momentum going behind me, as I said, before. Won my last several amateur fights, and then was 2-0 as a pro, and then had that setback back in May. It's been a long layoff. I had planned on, having a real busy 2015, and, I ended up only getting 2 fights in, so that was kind of disappointing. I had an injury after my last fight, and then I felt like it was just like a few nagging things, like cropping up after that. There's just, it was one thing after the other, just kind of little setbacks, and so I'm really excited. 2016, January 16th, right back in the cage first, right off the bat in 2016, and hopefully, it's, go take care of business here, and then, jump right back into a training camp. I want to get back, start climbing back up the ranks here. Felt like, had that little setback back in May. It's been 7 months back in the ring, got my head back on my shoulders, got everything ironed out, I feel like, so it's time to put together a little run here. Hopefully get some momentum, win a few fights, and then maybe toward the end of the year, hopefully I'm in a place where I can start competing for like that flyweight championship in Shamrock. And if I can get back there, then the sky's the limit. Really, Shamrock has their deal with Bellator. So if you're a Shamrock champion, then you defend your title once, and then you've got the option of moving on to Bellator. So. I feel like I got a few years left in me here, so let's go ahead and do this. So I'm looking forward to an active 2016.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, sounds promising. It's there's a lot out there, especially with if you stick around Shamrock as well. There is a lot there for you potentially to grow into. Before I let you go, and enjoy the rest of your day. Obviously, if I want to jump on social media, if people at home want to give you a follow and get an idea of what's going to happen with your training camps and stuff like that, how can people do that?
Yeah, definitely. You can find me on Facebook. It's Dustin Kramer, 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 or it's Cool Breeze Kramer. Cool Breeze is the nickname. So you can find me on Twitter. Had to get a little creative with the Twitter handle. Cool couple bruises already taken. So it's the_cool_breezy, and those are zeros for the O's and cool. But yeah, go ahead and follow me on Twitter and keep you up to date on the latest fight info. Hopefully, be announcing some kind of victory celebration news here around January 16th.
Hey, look, Dustin, have a great weekend. Enjoy the whole time. Have a great fight camp. Enjoy the whole experience, buddy, and just have fun. That's what it's all about, man. Have fun.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks a lot for having me. Just a quick thanks to all my friends and family, everybody who comes out to support all the fighters out at the Shamrock shows. We love you guys. Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Have you got any? Have you got any sponsors at the moment or not?
Yeah, I've got a Happy Shirt Company out in Lawrence, Kansas, and Title Boxing.
There you go. Give the sponsors shout-outs too, man. Yeah, look, great having you on, Dustin. Pleasure speaking with you, sir. I hope you have, like I say, just a really fun weekend at Shamrock FC, man.
All right, great. Thank you, man. Hopefully talk to you soon.